I'm Dr. Karen Antman, the Dean of the Edward Avedisian Chobanian School of Medicine and Provost of the Boston University Medical Campus. And welcome to the installation of our first two inaugural Edward Avedisian Professorships. Professorships both honor the distinguished donor, in this case, Mr. Edward Avedisian, and his generous gift renamed the school, but also outstanding faculty members who will be supported by the professorships. Installation of a new professor is one of the most joyous events in academic life, almost right up there with matriculation and graduation. And today we have two. I'd like to welcome Mr. Avedisian's wife, Pamela Avedisian. Stand. And her niece, Lori Onanian. And of course, we have the family of our inaugural professors. Dr. Sullivan's family and guests are here in person, including Janet and Brian McGinley and Patricia Sterner and Kevin McFarland. Would they please stand? And the rest of the family as well, if you're here. These really are truly family events, and many people will be online as well. Dr. Zachariou's family and guests attending via Zoom are her sister Effie, her niece, nephew, and brother-in-law, Athena, Paris, and Alex, along with numerous family members in the room. You want to stand and have us welcome you? We're delighted to have you because we know that distinguished professors don't happen by accident. They happen because of a lot of support from families and prior mentors, which we have in the room as well. I'd like to recognize Dr. Chobanian, Boston University President and Medical School Dean Emeritus, who's joining us virtually. And for our virtual audience on Zoom, feel free to share any comments on the chat feature. We'll be monitoring the chat and please remain muted during the program. And you should be thinking about additional people who may want to make comments, because we'll be inviting comments after the two speakers. So first, a few words about Mr. Avedisian. He was born in 1937 and grew up in an immigrant neighborhood in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, several homes away from his childhood friend, Chobanian, who's well known to this audience, who became our medical campus provost and dean and then president of the university. Mr. Avedisian earned his bachelor's in music in 1959 from BU's College of Fine Arts, and went on to earn a master's in music from College of Fine Arts in 1961. He was a clarinetist with the Boston Pops for 35 years until 2004. He worked alongside of other musicians such as Arthur Fiedler, John Williams, and Keith Lockhart. He spent 43 seasons with the Boston Ballet Orchestra and was twice appointed a Fromm Fellow for Contemporary Music Performance under the direction of Aaron Copland and Tanglewood. These are all the people that I learned about in music class when I was. Mr. Avedisian also invested his savings in pension, his second career. He read up on the market and invested carefully, took the books along when he was going on his musical trips and that sort of thing, and had time to read them. He said he never went into formal business school and didn't have an MBA, but I did fairly well. I'm not complaining. Then he began his third career, basically philanthropy, predominantly for educational programs and buildings in Rhode Island and Armenia. He received the Ellis Island Medal of Honor in 2016 and has been twice awarded the Kurentazi Medal by Armenia's president for contributions to education, culture, literature, and the arts. Very distinguished man. Slides, and in September 2020, missed one here. Okay, and in 2022, he pledged $100 million to support Boston University's renamed Chobanian Edward Avedisian School of Medicine. 50% of the endowment will go to scholarships, need-based scholarships. That's very interesting because some schools have made it merit-based scholarships, but I think it's very important that this is a need-based scholarship donation endowment. And this will support medical students who haven't even been born yet. When you think about it, 25% to professorships, and of course, we're celebrating that today, and 25% to excellence in education and research programs. But today we celebrate the investiture of the first two Edward Avedisian professors. I'm now pleased to introduce Pamela Avedisian, a talented pianist who spent a year as a piano major at Stetson University of Music in Florida, but then transferred to Endicott College after deciding not to make music her career. Therefore, she was in Boston and became a legal secretary and worked for 20 years as the head of litigation at a top Boston law firm. Pam?
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of Ed, myself, and our family to celebrate these inaugural appointments. Ed's parents taught him by doing, that fulfillment in life came from helping others. When Ed's mother was in the hospital giving birth to one of their children, his father was elsewhere. When asked why he wasn't at the hospital with his wife, he said, "She was in good hands. Someone else needed me more." Even though they were not financially well off, his mother was literate, unlike most women of her generation. Writing letters for folks was something she could do and did regularly. This was Ed's inspiration for helping others. His immigrant parents also emphasized from an early age the importance of getting an education. The word "Göttingen," education, was drummed into his head. Others also had helped him achieve his goals. For instance, his clarinet professor did not charge him for lessons. So when he found that he had the means to do so, helping others by supporting education was the obvious choice. First, by constructing school buildings in his parents' homeland, then by bolstering education in this country, culminating in his gift to BU, his alma mater. By now, you have read much of his story. Ed did not think more of himself because of what he was able to accomplish financially. Quite the opposite, in fact. He used to embarrass me when he would wear pants with holes in them and shirts coming apart at the seams. He felt that others were much more worthy of having their names on buildings, people whom he felt had made much more valuable contributions. I know that Ed was influenced by many of his teachers throughout his educational experience and recognized the important part that they played in that education. That is why including professorships as part of his gift was critical to him. After reading the articles on Dr. Nancy Sullivan and Dr. Venetia Zachariou, I believe they are most worthy inaugural Edward Avedisian professors and congratulate them. In his note to me after Ed's passing, Ed's pulmonologist quoted Longfellow, "Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow brings us farther than today." Thank you.
Thank you, Pam, and thank you to Edward and your family for this transformational gift. And now our professors. The first inaugural Avedisian professor is Dr. Nancy Sullivan. She's the director of the Boston University National Emerging Infectious Disease Laboratories on the medical campus and professor of microbiology and biology. She was recently recruited from the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, where she served as the chief of the Biodefense Research Section and the Vaccine Research Center. She's an international leader in filovirus vaccines and hemorrhagic fever virus immunology. Her team first demonstrated vaccine protection against Ebola infection in primates, and that led to an Ebola vaccine that was tested during the 2014 West Africa outbreak. Her team later developed Marburg and Sudan vaccines being developed by Sabin Vaccine Institute that have advanced to phase 2 in human trials. Her team also developed a monoclonal antibody from a human Ebola survivor that resulted in nearly 90% survival of Ebola patients who were treated soon after they contracted the disease. The monoclonal antibody is currently marketed as Ebanga and was FDA approved in 2020. Dr. Sullivan also studies other emerging diseases such as NIPAM, Mpox, and COVID. She was a top 10 finalist in the 2019 Science Breakthroughs of the Year and was named in the Politico Top 50 for her Ebola work. She serves as a senior advisory role in biodefense and pandemic preparedness. Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Dean Antman. Thank you especially to the Avedisian family. This means a lot to me. It means a lot to the medical school, and I think to the entire BU campus. So we're very pleased, and thank you. I am a professor in 2 departments, as Dean Antman said. So I first want to thank the deans of the schools. So the dean of the medical school, of course, Dean Antman, and the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Stan Skarloff. Also the chairs of the departments. I want to extend a hearty thanks, Ron Corley in microbiology and Pamela Templer in biology. And while I'm a professor in 2 different departments, I actually reside in one place, and that's the National Emerging Infectious Disease Laboratories that we call the NEEDL. The NEEDL was built to combat a multitude of infectious diseases. And you might say, why do we need an entire building to fight infectious diseases? That's over the top, isn't it? Well, let me just show you, since the year 2000, the number of virus outbreaks that have occurred around the world. And so in red and blue are outbreaks where the virus wasn't new, but it was occurring in a new place. In green are new viruses that we didn't know about before. Many of them coming from bats, birds, reservoirs that really aren't identified, and we wouldn't have anticipated that they would arise. Likewise, for something you're all familiar with now, and that's the coronavirus pandemic. So I hope instead of asking why a whole building for this, you like me are saying, thank goodness we have a whole building for this, especially within the BU medical campus that's so rich in an academic environment. So the NEEDL was a pretty big investment by NIH back in 2006. Took a little bit of time to get off the ground in Boston, but it's now running full tilt. And one of the things that makes us special, and in addition to where we are, is that it has multiple biosafety levels. And that means on the top, you can see someone just in a regular lab coat and gloves. And on the bottom, it's, people call them spacesuits, but that's what the scientists wear to work with these highly infectious pathogens. And we need to do that so that we can, ahead of time, develop therapies and vaccines for these viruses that we know are coming. We need to be as prepared as possible. And it's the only high containment lab that resides within a community like this. Now, I didn't have any intention of leaving NIH. I thought they'd have to pry my hands off of my computer and my lab bench when I was 120. But the recruiters stepped in. And so they look very friendly. This is a fierce team. So President Brown and Provost Morrison, along with a VP and Associate Provost for Research, Dr. Waters, and Dr. Lutchen, who's the Dean of the College of Engineering, really painted a picture for me that showed me the opportunities of coming to BU and the NEEDL at this time. It's not without challenges. Running the needle is really it's more than a full-time job, I think, is what I'm experienced so far. And that's why I have to say thank you to them, but also thank you to the people who have made me capable of taking on a challenge like this. So, of course, my family shaped who I am. That's the Sullivans circa 1960. And really, I have attributes of both parents, and I thank them very much for that. In the top left is a very dear, dear family friend, Charles Lauer, Chuck, lovingly, who probably something he said contributed to my taking the leap to come to BU, and that was a long time ago. Don't ever forget, you can buy a ticket and get on the train, but you can always change your destination. And really, that was something that I thought of when I took this position that I really hadn't considered taking. On the right is my sister Janet, who has been my rock for half a century, a little more. We have to say how old we are now. But really, for whether it's emotional or professional or anything, she's really been there for me through all the highs and lows. And I thank her and the family tremendously for my being able to be where I am. Okay, there's also the cheerleaders. On the left is that extended Irish clan who also have been there cheering me on all along. On the right are my godparents, Jimmy and Ruthie McFarland. And while they're not here, their son Kevin is. They have been supporters of me from the very beginning, and the true meaning of godparents have always been there. The educators. And so this is, I hope, going to resonate with all of you who touch students, because at both Merrimack College, a very small Catholic college on the North Shore, and the School of Public Health, there were one or two people who really had pivotal advice that has shaped some of the decisions that I've made in my career, and I remember it always. So you think you're talking to students and they're not hearing you, they're hearing you. I need to thank my mentors. So Joe Sadrowski was my graduate school mentor. I worked on HIV with him. He taught me how to do careful, robust research. Gary Nabel was my mentor as a postdoc, who taught me to think about the big picture. In addition to the research, you can get lost in some of those details sometimes. And John Mascola wasn't a formal mentor, but he was the scientific director of the Vaccine Research Center after Gary Nabel. And he really helped me learn how to move things forward. So you look at the big picture, you do the hard research now, make it mean something, do it deliberately, and get it across the finish line. So MAB 114 is partly because of, or large part because of John Mascola. Then I have my wise advisors. Tony Fauci, you all know, he taught me the meaning of service to public health and being able to communicate what we do in a way that's understandable. And he always said, precision of thought, economy of words. And that's how you're going to communicate best with your audience. Jean-Jacques Mayembe Tamfoum, JJ, is a longtime colleague of mine from the Democratic Republic of Congo. He has taught me, he and his whole team have taught me lessons that I could never learn here. And it's been really instrumental in shaping the way I look at the world and my research and the way it fits in. And then Julie Ledgerwood is a peer colleague. We have mentored each other for a number of years, and she's always has sage advice that has really helped me in my professional decisions. My colleagues at the Vaccine Research Center, we had a small core of investigators that mostly are still there, highly productive and highly collaborative, and really, again, were the foundation of a lot of the science that I was able the findings that I was able to achieve. Then the warriors. This is years of my labs. These folks work so hard, and in the upper left, you see the Hollywood Squares boxes. That was during the pandemic, where they were working 24/7, really just doing what needed to be done to get the vaccine out the door, the Moderna vaccine, and then to get the monoclonal antibodies into patients. So worked super hard, and really I'm nowhere without them. And then my new colleagues at the Needle, I'm getting to know them, and I'm thanking them in advance because I'm sure that we're going to do great things together, and I'm just very pleased to be working with them.
Perfect.
And then finally, the dream team, literally the
my
dream
sound's
team.
not on.
These are, it's a group of people who have welcomed me to the Needle and to BU and have really helped me get my feet under me. In the middle is the leadership team. And then in the corners are my support team in the director's office, and together, really, this is a dream team. And so I'll thank you by saying that it all comes back to family. It's one of the reasons I'm back here, and I thank them. I thank you all for your indulgence and for your attendance here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. The second inaugural Edward Avedisian professor is Dr. Venetia Zachariou. I think you may have pronounced it better than I did. Dr. Sullivan is a professor and chair of pharmacology, physiology, and biophysics. She studies signal transduction and epigenetics, mechanisms of neurological disorders, and their treatment using genetic mouse models and viral mediated gene transfer. Her current projects study how signal transduction complexes modulate drug addiction, chronic stress, and the transition to chronic pain states and depression. Certainly a major public health problem today in this country and in the world. She also studies how intracellular pathways in the brain reward center involve affective and sensory components of chronic pain. And the goal is to develop new therapeutics for chronic pain conditions by understanding how gene expression adapts to peripheral nerve injury or inflammation throughout the pain matrix. She received her BS in pharmacy from the University of Patras in Greece, her PhD in pharmacology at the Medical College of Georgia. Her postdoc fellowship was done at Yale, and she was on the faculty at UT Southwestern in Dallas and at the University of Crete before she joined Mount Sinai in New York in 2009 before coming here. She serves on editorial boards of biological psychiatry, molecular pain, science signaling, neurobiology of pain, and is a section editor for the European Journal of Neuroscience. Dr. Zachariou.
Okay. Thank you all. Dean Antman, thank you for the nice introduction. Thank you for the wonderful opportunities you've given me. President Brown, thank you, Deans Park, Taylor, McKnight, Riso, Manchun, for all the support and guidance this few months that I've been here. And of course, a great thank you to the Avedisian family for this wonderful honor. It's almost, it was a crazy dream to be named a professor after a renowned musician. And this dream is true. Music means a lot to me. And there's a lot of music stories connected with my science. Yeah, so I've trained and worked in various medical schools all over the world. I think the Antman talked a bit about my research directions. In summary, I've spent my life setting up preclinical translational models to study complex human disorders. I've been extremely lucky to be surrounded by amazing trainees and colleagues. We've discovered new treatment targets, but more importantly, we connected with other scientists all over the world. Oops, I'm sorry. And we're facing many expected and unexpected challenges. Science means 90% of the experiments are not working, and that's expected. The unexpected challenges of a woman of my age, experiencing or witnessing other colleagues going through invisibility, discrimination, or unfair treatment. And these challenges now became a motivation to go over leadership positions. I'm working on chronic pain, and as you can see from this table, there are many many conditions, many chronic pain conditions that we barely know anything about their pathophysiology. And I'm sorry, but the slides are okay. And there's very poor treatment right now. 20% of the American population suffers from very severe chronic pain conditions, such as fibromyalgia, chronic migraines, or chronic fatigue syndrome. So it's important to develop novel approaches to break this vicious cycle of chronic pain, which is not just prolonged acute pain. It's a more complex condition that comes with overall generalized pain, anxiety, insomnia, inability to focus, other cognitive or emotional symptoms, and treatment has been extremely problematic. So what my lab is doing is trying to understand the pathophysiology of chronic pain in more detail in order to develop treatments to stop the transition from acute to chronic pain or to disrupt the maintenance of chronic pain. We've come up with several new targets, and we also have some new directions. More recently, we developed a project of COVID-19 related neuropathies. Given how poorly pain is treated in women, we have developed models to study female-specific pain treatments. And of course, we're in the middle of an opioid epidemic. Still, the fentanyl or deaths from overdose from other painkillers are equal or higher to those of heroin. About 14 million Americans have been misusing prescription opioids, and a major challenge for pain patients is to be able to overcome, stop using opioids for the alleviation of pain without going through withdrawal. So our work led to some new discoveries in the brain-ward pathway, where we can understand the mechanisms that underlie opioid addiction under chronic pain states. And we come up with new treatments that we can now imply to prevent opioid withdrawal while suppressing pain, transitioning to an opioid-free pain management. And of course, I couldn't be here without this tremendous support from my amazing mentors and my parents. First of all, Barry Goldstein, my PhD thesis mentor, Marina Picciotto at Yale, who showed me to be fearless and never be afraid to develop and set up a new technique, no matter how long it takes, if it is important to answer a critical science question. And of course, Eric Nessler, who is here today and virtually. Eric, you, besides the amazing science, you showed me that, make me work very hard, exceed myself like all of your trainees, and think that I was just in a party with many of my friends, and you made science really fun. Thank you. And of course, my parents, who were supportive in every single step of my training and my career. Their dream was, because I have a pharmacist degree, was that we're all open a drugstore together in Athens. And unfortunately, I had different plans, but they supported me no matter how crazy and unrealistic my plans were. I didn't speak English when I started graduate school, so there were some concerns. Of course, the best part of being in academia is that you are surrounded by smart and very talented trainees. And these are some pictures of different lab generations in a smaller island at the beginning as an assistant professor in Crete, to the bigger island later on. And I couldn't, be here without all the amazing graduate students, postdoc, and master students that I had the honor to work with. I want to particularly mention some of the people that are also on Zoom today: Dimitra Terzi, Sevi Gaspari, Vicky Mitzi, Fiona Carr, Janina Descalzi, and many others. You changed the trajectory of my research. Your findings and hard work made me who I am, and I'm here today because of you. You're forever my lab family. Thank you. And of course, I couldn't, not mention the amazing team that is the current lab members, and thanking them for joining me in this new adventure, moving here with me. Alex Serafini, Lenka Gusan, Monsieur Villazaya, Nila Patne, Madi Tafi, and Maya Farzainpour. You are amazing scientists, and I'm excited to see the new directions that you're taking our projects, from clinical projects to coronavirus work. Alex Serafini is the one that, while I was securely quarantining in Manhattan, ran to BSL-3 and was holding SARS-CoV-2 vials in his hands to figure out mechanisms underlying long COVID related neuropathies. Many other exciting projects coming out of this wonderful group of people, so stay tuned. And also, this is a moment that I want to thank all my peers and my friends throughout the years, their friends, mentors, and collaborators at the same time. We connected through science from many years ago, but also through music. And that's why this is so important. We're listening to music, we're doing experiments, we exchange playlists, we had soundtracks for every project. Some with Olivier, who is here, some of the best experiment ideas were conceived at music concerts. Barbara Calderon, I've never sent a paper out without Barbara's advice. Will Rental, Nadia Tsankova, you've been amazing friends and mentors. And most of all, my New York sister, Dina Alexandropoulos, Chris Roman, you are a role model. And I think your department is super lucky to have you now as a chair. Thank you all. You've been amazing friends and colleagues. And long list of collaborators. I apologize, I couldn't have everyone here. I have current and long-term collaborators. I want to thank all of them, but I want to mostly thank my new BU colleagues, Angela Ho, Rafael Ortega, Michael Garcia Marcos, who made me feel like home from day one. At this point, I also want to thank Leigh Lindbergh, who was among the first women chair of pharmacology, and the first talk I attended as a graduate student, the first week I joined graduate school. And I had the luck and privilege to get a scientific and career advice for Leigh many times over the years. And of course, thank and show my excitement to work with an amazing group of scientists from diverse background, making now this new department and accelerating research towards the understanding of human disorders and developing new treatments. I'm looking forward to work with all of you. I'm thankful also to all the administrators. You've been wonderful to me. And Bill Lehman, the vice chair of our department. And before I close, I want to thank my sister and best friend, Effie, who now is staying up past her bedtime to join us from Athens, together with other family members. You have been amazing. Your love and support means everything to me. Paris, Athena, Alex, you're everything everywhere, all at once. And I'm going to close with acknowledgement of my mother, Irene Zachariou. If she was here today, she'd share this Zoom link with 200 of her friends. She would be proudly coming here along with other people advertising this achievement, and I would be embarrassed and upset. And she's here through her kindness and through her philanthropy. My mother spent most of her life in philanthropic activities, not only by financially supporting those in need, but also giving her time, making sure that people feel safe and happy every single day. And that's a lot, and that's very hard to achieve, but I have made a promise to her to continue this work inspired by the Avedisian family. My mother never wanted anyone to be hungry and wanted everyone to have access to education and healthcare. And I'm going to do my best to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zachariou. And I think many people have noticed the connection between music and medicine. Many of our students are actually almost concert grade pianists and other musicians. People at other schools have noticed this as well. We have two baby grands on campus, one here and one over in the student residence, and we have to replace them about every 15 years, not because the students abuse them, but because they get used so much. So I think that your point about medicine and music and science is well taken as well. And I think that resonates very well considering the naming of our school. So at this time, we welcome others to share any congratulations, both here and on Zoom. Come on up. You have, for everybody to see you on Zoom, you have to be up here, so you can't do it from back there. And if you are on Zoom and would like to make a comment, please put your hand up. Who's watching the chat? Do we have? Yes, we're watching the chat. So if you put up your hand, we'll acknowledge you. From the room? I warned you this was going to happen. Yes, come on up. And introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex, the COVID guy in Dr. Zachareiou's lab. I just wanted to let everyone know that Vana's probably one of the best mentors you can have as an MD PhD student. She is also very challenging and drives work, but I think she forces people to become the best scientists they can be. And I've had the utmost privilege to be your student, and I thank you for all the mentorship that you've given me. So congratulations.
Others? Anyone from Zoom? Well, then, come. Introduce yourself, because not everybody knows.
Hi, I'm Jay Mizger. I'm a professor of medicine here in the Boston University Chobanian and Avedisian School of Medicine, and I'm an old friend of Nancy Sullivan. Nancy and I went to doctoral studies together before she was Dr. Sullivan, when she was just Nancy. But even when Nancy was just Nancy, she wasn't just Nancy. Nancy's always been special. So she was a good friend at the time. I learned so much from her. We had wonderful conversations, wonderful softball games together, talked science, talked a lot of things. And I transitioned from being good friends with her to becoming kind of a fan over the years. My wife kept sharing photographs of Nancy all over the world, curing all kinds of diseases, meeting all kinds of politicians. And now instead of being a fan, I'm a colleague. I'm so glad to welcome Nancy to BU and to be part of the family, and congratulate her on this wonderful professorship.
Sometimes this is the best part.
There was an official recruiting team, and then there was ex officio. I can't tell you how many calls I had with Jay Mizger before making this decision.
We have somebody from Zoom. Can we make them loud enough to make comments?
Yeah, is this
Yes, this is perfect. Go
you're
for
referring
it.
to? Awesome, excellent. My name is Janita Descalzi, and I was Vanna's postdoc at Mount Sinai. And I just have to say thank you so much, Vanna. You've obviously really impacted my life. You were a wonderful mentor, and I am just well, very happy for you in this new adventure of yours. And I wish you the best of luck. And I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. And congrats for taking her on, because she's fantastic and going to do great for you guys.
And good luck with your new lab. I know you're okay. Yes.
Good luck with your new lab. I don't know if you heard that, because you didn't have a microphone.
Thanks very much. Typical Vanna, switching it over to thank me and wish me luck there.
Anyone else? We are about to break for refreshments, and good.
Hi, I'm Jamie McKnight. I'm the Associate Provost and Dean of Graduate Medical Sciences, and I want to welcome you both, and looking forward to having you train our students to be the next generation of outstanding researchers. And so you'll be getting a lot of emails from me, so please read them, and best wishes while you're here.
Anyone else? Before we break, can you please congratulate our new professors? And thank the wife of Mr. Avedisian and his family. This really is a family event, and now let's celebrate. Thank you.